6:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Lal Mallavarachi, read by Soundithavam. In the headlines, the water capacity of the Mahaveli reservoirs related to hydropower stations has increased up to a considerable level. Landslide warnings are issued for several districts. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena says the next year will be the biggest turning point in Sri Lanka's education. A fertilizer subsidy of 1,000 million rupees is to be credited to farmers for the Maha season cultivation. The Cabinet Subcommittee appointed to look into Sri Lanka cricket's future activities and Sports Minister's Gazette. UK trade envoy concludes 3-day visit to Sri Lanka. In foreign news, Hamas-run health ministry says 10,000 people killed in Gaza since start of the war. And in sports, Angelo Matthews was controversially timed out in a first for international cricket. The Sri Lanka Mahaveli Authority says the water capacity of reservoirs related to hydropower stations in the Central Hills has increased up to the considerable level at present. The Victoria Reservoir is now full up to 78.5% of its entire capacity. The Kotmale Reservoir is at 76.6% and Rantabe at 40.3%. The Resident Engineering Office of the Mahaveli Authority says that people living close to the banks of the Mahaveli River should be vigilant on rising water levels as the floodgates of the reservoirs in the upcountry area are opened from time to time due to the prevailing heavy rains. Meanwhile, the National Building Research Organisation has issued landslide warnings for several districts. Level 1 yellow warnings were issued for several areas of the Hambantota, Kandy, Kagala, Matale, Matara and Ratnapura districts. Level 2 amber warning was issued for the Haputala Divisional Secretariat divisions and the surrounding areas of the Badula district, Tumpane Divisional Secretariat division and surrounding areas of the Kandy district, Kalavana, Ratnapura, Balangoda, Kuruvita, Alapata, Kolanna, Ahaliagoda, Opanayaka, Godakavela, Valigepala and Imbulpe Divisional Secretariat divisions and the surrounding areas of the Ratnapura district. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena says the year 2024 will be the biggest turning point in Sri Lanka's education. The minister was speaking on the occasion of the Russian government and its Ministry of Education affording an opportunity to 7 students, 20 teachers and a parent representative of the Homagama Mahinda Rajapaksa College for a 3-month educational tour in Russia. At the request of the Homagama Mahinda Rajapaksa College founder, Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena, this visit has been facilitated through the coordination of the Sri Lanka Ambassador to Russia, Professor Janita Lienage. A special assembly was held at the college auditorium to appraise the students, staff and parents about it. Simultaneously, a collection of Russian educational books were donated to the college library. Also, the foundation stone was laid for the construction of an official residence for the principal of the college, which is lacking until now. The minister further said the coming year will be a year of change for the Mahinda Rajapaksa College and the country's national education system. Last week, the Cabinet approved the 10-year plan to make Sri Lanka's education a student-centered education system fully suited to the modern world by producing a generation of children who are a source for the country and the world in line with the modern technological systems and the educational systems of advanced countries. 1,000 million rupees received by the Agriculture Ministry as the first installment for the fertilizer subsidy to farmers in the upcoming season was credited to the accounts of the district offices of the ministry yesterday. In the Maha season, 800,000 hectares of paddy will be cultivated. Around 1.2 million farmers will be provided 15,000 rupees per hectare. The total amount expected to be spent by the government for providing this fertilizer subsidy is 12,000 million rupees. Accordingly, it has been planned to credit farmers' accounts with 15,000 rupees per hectare. Fertilizers supplied by the government sector have already been sent to all agrarian services centres. Minister Mahinda Amaravira said that action will be taken to provide this financial assistance to the very peasants who are engaged in farming. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The Cabinet of Ministers has decided to appoint a 4-member Cabinet subcommittee to look into the gazette issued by the Sports Minister Roshan Ranasinghe, appointing an interim committee for Sri Lanka cricket, while suspending the previous board and also the future activities of SLC. The subcommittee is chaired by Minister Ali Sabri and also comprises of Ministers Tiran Alas, Manusha Nanayakara and Kanchana Wijesekara. Sports Minister Ranasinghe yesterday appointed a 7-member interim committee for Sri Lanka cricket, chaired by World Cup winning former captain Arjuna Ranatunga. The committee will look into the shortcomings of the Sri Lanka cricket and will make necessary recommendations to uplift the spirit of cricket in Sri Lanka. UK Prime Minister's trade envoy for Sri Lanka, Lord Davis of Abasok, visited Colombo recently. During the visit, Lord Davis had meetings with Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe, Power and Energy Minister Kanchana Wijesekara, Trade Minister Nalin Fernando, and State Enterprise Restructuring Unit Director General Suresh Shah. Lord Davis discussed and exchanged ideas on Sri Lanka's trading relationship, market access challenges faced by UK companies, and further opportunities for collaboration that supports the mutual economic prosperity of both the UK and Sri Lanka. Lord Davis engaged with wide-ranging representation from across the business community. He met with a range of UK businesses to discuss their views on the operating environment and future ambitions. He visited the De La Rue and Unilever factories, which are two successful examples of UK manufacturing excellence in the country. He also toured LSEG technology that brings Sri Lankan tech talent to the forefront by delivering high-performance solutions that service 40 financial markets globally. That concludes Local News.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Veda.
Sri Lanka bagged the prestigious British Guild of Travel Writers Tourism Award for the Best International Tourism Project in the wider world for the Pico Trail at the annual Gala Awards held in London on Sunday. This is the first time Sri Lanka has secured an International Tourism Award at the renowned British Guild. Receiving the award, Minister of Tourism Harin Fernando remarked that the country is thrilled and humbled to receive this accolade. It validates our efforts to revive the tourism industry in our country after a few challenging years by innovating and celebrating authentic travel in a way that resonates with and attracts travellers keen to explore and discover the real Sri Lanka. That came to you in the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Veda.
Moving on to Watchlight, the Met Department cautions the public on the possible thundershowers accompanied by severe lightning that can occur in several places in the western, central, Sabrugama, north-central, northwestern, Uva and southern provinces, also in the Mullaitivu and Mannar districts during the evening or night. It further predicts that there may be temporary localized strong winds during thundershowers. The general public is warned to be on alert. That came to you in Watchlight, and we move on to a bulletin of world news making headlines this morning. The Hamas-run health ministry says 10,000 people killed in Gaza since the start of the war. Australian Prime Minister Albanese hails progress with China after talks. No school, no play for New Delhi's children due to air pollution. Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry says 10,022 people have been killed in the territory since the war began a month ago. Israel's military carried out one of its heaviest bombardments of Gaza overnight. The director of Gaza City's Al-Shifa hospital says the strikes killed about 200 people. Casualties arrived at the hospital in carts carried by donkeys, the director told a reporter in Gaza, as communication outages left people unable to reach ambulance services. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says that there have been significant progress in relations with China after talks with President Xi Jinping in Beijing. Mr. Albanese, who landed in Shanghai on Saturday, is the first Australian leader to visit China since 2016. The 4-day state visit is seen as a key point in thawing relations after a string of trade and security disputes. Trade is at the top of the agenda. Mr. Albanese is calling for the removal of Chinese tariffs on Australian goods. Delhi's Environment Minister Gopal Roy has asked all schools to remain shut until Friday, with offline classes only for high schoolers. This isn't the first time that air pollution has disrupted learning in Delhi. It has been happening every winter over the past 4 to 5 years. Delhi's air quality index, which measures the level of PM2.5 or fine particulate matter in the air, has consistently crossed the 450 mark, nearly 10 times the acceptable limit. Breathing this toxic air is akin to smoking 25 to 30 cigarettes a day, according to lung specialists. Now, classes are disrupted for at least 5 to 6 days at a stretch, says Shariq Ahmed, the principal of a government school in Kalkaji in South Delhi. Back to the headlines of the world news. Hamas-run health ministry says 10,000 people killed in Gaza since the start of war. Australian Prime Minister Albanese hails progress with China after talks. And no school, no play for New Delhi's children due to air pollution. That concludes this bulletin of world news.
Development news.
The newly appointed ambassador of Iran to Sri Lanka, Alireza Delkosh, paid a courtesy call on Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena at Temple Trees yesterday. The ambassador assured that he would work for further expansion of economic and cultural relationship between Iran and Sri Lanka during his diplomatic tenure. The Prime Minister said Iran has the opportunities now to invest in new sectors, such as agriculture and industrial sectors, in addition to the energy sector. That came to you in development news.
Moving on with sports news.
Angelo Matthews was controversially timed out in a first for international cricket during a World Cup defeat to Bangladesh that ended his side's slim semi-final hopes. Matthews noticed the strap on his helmet was broken, called for a new piece of headwear, and was not ready to face his first delivery within the required 2 minutes, after coming in at number 6 for Sri Lanka. Bangladesh captain Shakib Al Hassan appealed for the batter's wicket, and Matthews was subsequently given his marching orders by the on-field umpires in a remarkable moment during yesterday's match. The MCC law says a batter must be ready to face the first delivery within 3 minutes, but the ICC playing conditions of the World Cricket Cup, which supersede the MCC law, stipulated that it is 2 minutes. Matthews had appeared to tell Shakib that the delay only happened because of his helmet breaking, but the Bangladesh skipper would not change his mind. Sri Lanka went on to make 279 all out. A total already eliminated Bangladesh topped with 54 balls to spare to win by 3 wickets and knock their opponents out of the top 4 teams of the points table. All that came to you in sports news. We take a look at business news next.
Go ekatiyana youth ekata life eke change ekata niyameta set wenna as wahagena dagapu veena habe karanna youth ekata niyameta set wenna friendship eka menna.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IAM, a plan for your dream.
Business news. Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Sri Lanka's balance of payments slipped deeper into deficit in September 2023 after recording a marginal gap in the month before, official data showed. Sri Lanka's balance of payments surplus steadily increased to $2,078 million up to July 2023, but fell in August. In September, the surplus fell to $1,863 million, indicating a deficit of $171 million. That's business news. Economic news up next.
Business news. Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekatiyana youth ekata life eke change ekata niyameta set wenna as wahagena dagapu veena habe karanna youth ekata niyameta set wenna friendship eka menna.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IAM, a plan for your dream.
On to economic news, only 7.7% of the working age women are engaged in formal employment with decent wages and decent working hours. The Institute of Policy Studies, IPS, said, noting that household and caregiving responsibilities and limited availability of jobs compound Sri Lanka's low levels of female labour force participation. Due to the heavier household and caregiving responsibilities falling on women, they face challenges when participating in the labour force and securing decent work, the IPS said in a statement yesterday, authored by researchers Kimuthu Kiringoda and Himani Vidanake. That came to you in economic news.
Weather report.
Showers or thundershowers will occur at several places in most provinces of the island after 1 p.m. Heavy showers about 100 millimeters are likely at some places in the western, central, Sabrugamo and the Uva provinces, also in Galle and Matara. Showers may occur in the western and eastern provinces during the morning as well. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in the western, Sabrugamo, central and Uva provinces during the morning. To conclude this bulletin of news, a recap of the headlines. The water capacity of Mahavali reservoirs related to hydropower stations has increased up to a considerable level. Landslide warnings issued for several districts. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena says the next year will be the biggest turning point in Sri Lanka's education. A fertilizer subsidy of 1,000 million rupees is to be credited to farmers for the Maha-season cultivation. Cabinet subcommittee appointed to look into Sri Lanka cricket's future activities and Sports Minister's Gazette. UK Trade Envoy concludes 3-day visit to Sri Lanka. Hamas-run Health Ministry says 10,000 people killed in Gaza since the start of the war. And Angelo Matthews was controversially timed out in a first for international cricket. With that, we conclude this bulletin of news.